Christopher Lohman, and I'm an archaeologist.
Me llamo Flavio Gabriel Silva de la Mora y soy un arqueólogo.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Taylor and I'm an archaeologist.
My name is Katie Chiou and I'm an archaeologist.
My name is Jerry Howard and I'm an archaeologist.
Ka'awe, Peter Nelson, he ka'opu Tamo Micha, he ka'opu archaeologist.
My name is Jennifer Salinas and I'm an archaeologist.
I'm Rob Cuthrell and I am an archaeologist.
My name is Julie Wesp and I'm an archaeologist.
نام من الان فرهانیه و باستان شناسم.
My name is Melanie Miller and I'm an archaeologist.
My name is Anna Harkey and I am an archaeologist.
Niko Jun Sanseri, Niko Shumasa, archaeologist.
My name is Alexandra McCleary and I'm an archaeologist.
I'm Celeste Chilcote and I'm an archaeologist.
我叫胡迪，我的专业是考古学。
My name is Kirsten Vaca and I'm an archaeologist.
I'm Annalise Morris and I'm an archaeologist.
I'm Kat Egner and I'm an archaeologist.
My name is Mike Rohn and I am an archaeologist.
I study paleoethnobotany, which is examination of how people used plants in the past by looking at charred seeds and charred wood from archaeological sites, as well as microbotanical remains like starches and phytoliths, pollen grains.
I am a zooarchaeologist and a ceramic materials scientist, so I look at animal bones and ceramic materials like pottery in archaeological context.
I'm a Mesoamerican archaeologist. Right now I'm looking at domestic activities and production, consumption, and exchange in the northwestern Maya lowlands.
I'm mainly interested in prehistoric ritual practice, so I look at any artifacts that are left over or associated from ritual practices in the past.
I specialize in architectural analysis.
I do California archaeology and I focus on hunter-gatherer subsistence, so I look mostly at shell mounds.
I'm an indigenous archaeologist, and so what that means is that I'm doing a lot of monitoring and protecting the cultural resources of my tribe, and I do what the community is interested in, the questions that people in the tribe want answered.
And I also specialize in lithics, which are stone tools or artifacts made from stone.
I'm an historic archaeologist, so I work in the 18th, 19th, and early 20th century, and part of what I do is I work with documentary research and history as well as archaeology. So I study the more recent history and I study all kinds of artifacts from ceramics, glass, to metal.
I am a bioarchaeologist, which means that we study human skeletal remains. Bioarchaeologists believe that you can study the human skeleton like any other artifact and understand people's daily life in the past.
I've been lucky to excavate in multiple places. The first dig I ever went on was in Poland, and then I was lucky to work in museums and do other field work in South Africa. I've worked in South America, in Peru and Bolivia, and now I'm doing my dissertation research in Colombia.
I've worked in Taiwan, in Peru, in Belize, and in the United States as well.
I primarily work in Jordan. My area of expertise is the Middle East, but I've worked in California, in New Jersey, in Spain, and in Armenia, in the Caucasus.
I've worked in Ecuador, Peru, in the West Indies, in Antigua and Montserrat, and I currently work in Texas.
Well, now I work in California. In the past, I've worked in Turkey on a Neolithic site, and a couple times in England on a Viking dig and on a Roman fort up toward Hadrian's Wall.
I have worked in Ireland, Greece, Mexico, Nicaragua, the Eastern United States, and am currently working with a collection in Holland.
And I have worked in Peru in the past, and I'm currently working on paleoethnobotanical samples from Bolivia, and I've also done work in California and also Germany.
I've worked in Africa, throughout the United States, and Panama and Peru.
Right now I work in Colombia in South America, and I've also worked in Georgia in the US on materials from California and in the British Virgin Islands and Belize.
I work in Chiapas specifically at a site called Chiou, which is close to Palenque. I've done most of my work in the Mayan area. I've also worked in the Patagonia in Chile and in Northern California at Lasse National Park.
I've always been fascinated with people and how we are alike and how we are different.
And interested in how we related to our environments and how people have adjusted to and been shaped by their physical surroundings.
I was always more interested in people's daily lives, and so archaeology is probably one of the only ways of learning that, and especially in places that people don't write down their daily lives as much. So.
I think I'm drawn to archaeology because there's a sort of mystery to it, that there are questions about people in the past that are hard to answer, and I like the investigative side of discovering something that we don't know.
Well, it started off with dinosaurs, which is paleontology, not archaeology. But when I was little, I really liked the idea that you could go up and dig up the past. And as I got older, I got much more interested in people than I was in dinosaurs.
I always loved the children's books that had pictures of what it was like to live in the past.
I used to be a subscriber of Discovery for Kids, and I saw an article on coprolites, human coprolites, which is basically, in this case, was desiccated human feces. And I saw that people were able to reconstruct diet from these remains, and so I was really interested in how personal archaeology can be.
I think it's the unknown. When you get to an archaeological site and not really knowing what happened there, just having an idea that actually people lived there, and being able to figure out what went on in the past, I just think that's extremely exciting.
Archaeology is both a physically challenging and a mentally challenging discipline that we can use to answer important and interesting questions about the past, solve the mysteries of what happened in the past.
Because I saw people using archaeology and the narratives we build in their current struggles for self-determination, so it has a meaning in the greater world that I find very compelling.
I think history is really, really fascinating, but I've also always been really interested in science. And so I feel like archaeology is where history and science meet.
I've always been interested in chemistry and biology, and I realized that I could pursue a really interesting career in archaeology. I'm really interested in always having a new project and a new idea and a new question to tackle, and archaeology allows me to constantly be working on new projects and new puzzles.
I decided to become an archaeologist when I was in middle school, but I decided that I wanted to be part of understanding the past when I was about 5 or 6 years old on a trip to a museum where a tour guide actually pointed out a series of large statues that had been pieced together from smaller pieces.
I've always loved history. I like telling stories and hearing stories and creating stories, and so you know, that's what my interest in archaeology is. It's just a different way of telling a story.
In San Francisco, there was a site that was so, the mud from the bay was so thick that some of the material coming out was really well preserved, and we were finding things like leather jackets and boots where the leather was still soft, or bottles that still had liquid in them.
Stone sculpture of a feathered serpent head, and it just was kind of the first thing that I found that wasn't just a regular rock, and it just kind of stood out to me.
There was a broken piece of decoration from a pot sculpted in the shape of a llama face, and the llama was sticking out its tongue.
We were digging at an old military site and found a pipe that was a conduit to the ocean that they could listen to for submarines and tell where the submarines were from. So that was very cool too.
The coolest thing I've ever found was actually a well. Excavating anything like a well is really cool because, you know, you never know what you can find, and you know, every couple of centimeters something else cool is coming, and you're just digging deeper and deeper, and so it's just kind of a really exciting moment.
I've excavated bluing balls, which are these blue, it's like blue dye balls that you put in your white laundry to help make them whiter. But when you find them archaeologically, all the soil is just like bright cobalt blue.
I found a mummy of a young woman of what was then my age, about 19 years old. And it was very a memorable experience.
Last summer I was able to excavate a 5,000-year-old skeleton, which I think is pretty cool and very unusual. Not many people get to have the privilege to uncover and then think about someone who lived 5,000 years ago.
Being able to find roads and really think what that meant for the people in the past, find a physical place where people were moving back and forth from one archaeological site to the next, to me that was really amazing.
I think the first time that I realized that I found a post mold was my most memorable moment, because it's something that if you weren't an archaeologist or specifically looking for that, you may not know that it's there. It's just a stain in the ground, but when I found it I knew, that's where a post was, and so it was really cool.
A lot of tobacco seeds at the site that I'm looking at. Usually you don't see a lot of tobacco seeds at sites in California, and the fact that we're finding so many at this site tells us that people were probably trading tobacco long distances or planting tobacco and growing it right where they were living outside of its natural range. So that's a new piece of information.
I think that being an archaeologist leads to unforeseeable and really beautiful engagements with the communities that host us in our collaborative research. So, for example, something very beautiful would be the possibly tiny seed beads that we excavated this last summer that our host community identified as the proof of their ancestors' innovations in basketry making.
Any sort of hat with a large brim, because I get sunburned very easily.
I had this great giant cowboy hat that my grandpa gave me, and it's the best. I never go anywhere without it.
My water bottle and my camel pack. I get very thirsty, especially working in tropical environments.
A trowel.
I always make sure I have sunscreen, water, and a compass.
I take a stick ruler, like a meter stick ruler that folds out. It's a really good measuring tool, and it's really good for getting depth as opposed to using a regular tape measure.
My field notebook, because to me that's the most important thing to have. That's where I keep my notes, that's where I keep what I'm thinking, that's where I keep the log of how the day is going, and that's what I use when I turn in my field report.
I try to always have somewhere packed away a clean shirt so that when I am called to meetings with elders or community leaders that I don't look too disrespectful when I show up for those.
I take a data logger because I like to see where I've gone when I'm doing survey.
Ziploc bags, because I'm always taking samples, and so I use a lot of Ziploc bags. Also Sharpies.
It's my hand lens. And a hand lens, some people call it a loupe. It's a little magnifying glass. It's about that big, and it magnifies things about 10 or 20 times.
Mosquito net. Especially where I work, mosquitoes are terrible, and if you don't have a mosquito net, you are doomed.
I always take my pocket knife because when you're lost in the jungle, you never know what you're going to find.
A hammock for those down times that you so rarely get.
I always take a water purifying UV pen because I have a very sensitive stomach and I love to eat street food.
The lucky bandana that I always wear. It's very festive. It's got penguins on it.
Not just the field, but I have a trowel that is well loved. It was much bigger when I started, and the more that you work, the more the sides get shaved down. So this is my lucky trowel.